The backyard was a wonderland of pastel blues and soft pinks, balloons dancing gently in the breeze, casting playful shadows across the lawn. I paused, adjusting a garland, and felt Ethan's familiar warmth as he stepped closer, reaching over my shoulder to tie the ribbon I struggled with. He smiled, eyes sparkling like they always did when he knew I was watching. "Careful," Ethan teased lightly, his laughter brushing softly against my ear. "You're carrying precious cargo now. 5 years." I couldn't help but smile softly to myself as memories spilled forth like golden sunlight. Years of laughter, whispered promises, and silent prayers during countless doctor's visits. Those quiet nights when I cried into Ethan's shoulder, wondering if we'd ever have this moment. A baby had seemed impossible, a distant dream that kept slipping through our fingers. But now, our miracle was here, growing stronger inside me every day. I placed a gentle hand over my belly, imagining tiny hands, small feet, a little face that would blend the best parts of us. Soon, this house would no longer feel empty. Soon, toys would scatter across the carpet, crayons would scribble on walls, and laughter would echo loudly in the halls. My heart swelled with a longing so fierce it almost hurt. Finally, we'd be a family. My phone buzzed softly. I glanced down, hopeful. Still nothing from Tessa. 3 years studying abroad in Australia had stretched our bond thin, and now even my messages went unanswered. I typed quickly, fingers hesitant yet hopeful. "Please come, Tess. We miss you." The screen remained stubbornly silent, and I tucked the disappointment away. She was probably just busy with exams. She'd call soon. Ethan approached quietly, slipping an arm around my waist and pulling me close. "Stop checking that phone," he teased, his breath warm against my ear. "She'll get back to you. Today's about us. About this." He placed a hand over mine, on my belly, and I leaned into him, the world narrowing to the steady beat of his heart against my back. "I'm so proud of you," he whispered. "Of us. Of this little one we're bringing into the world." My throat tightened, and I turned to face him, his hazel eyes catching the sunlight. I smiled, the kind of smile that felt like it could hold the whole universe. "We did it," I said, softly. "We're going to be a family." And for that moment, everything was perfect. Ethan pushed open the sliding glass door, sunlight pouring in around his silhouette. His arms were full of envelopes and glossy catalogs, the edges fluttering like small wings. "Mail run complete," he said cheerfully, dropping the stack onto the kitchen island. I moved closer, helping him sort through the pile. Bank statements, baby store flyers, a wedding invitation from a distant cousin. My fingers brushed a plain white envelope tucked near the bottom, its corner peeking out. As I pulled it free, it slipped from my grasp and fluttered to the floor, landing face up. My eyes snagged on the letterhead, Westview Genetic Testing Center. Beneath it, 2 names stared back at me in bold black print, Ethan Miller and Brandon Miller, male, 2 years old. My fingers trembled as I turned the envelope over. It was already slit open, the edges slightly crinkled like someone had handled it too many times. I pulled out the single sheet inside, my eyes scanning the words before my brain could catch up. Paternity test. Results. Probability of paternity. 99.9%. The room seemed to tilt. A roaring filled my ears, drowning out the soft clink of glass as Ethan stacked cups beside me. I couldn't move. The envelope trembled in my hands, the paper whispering secrets I hadn't asked to hear. My chest felt too tight, as though my ribs were locked in a vice. My pulse throbbed so loudly I wondered if Ethan could hear it too. Suddenly he was beside me, close enough for me to feel the heat radiating from his body. His hand reached for mine. "Hey, Liv, everything okay?" I blinked rapidly, shoving the envelope behind my back so quickly the edge bit into my skin. "Just junk mail." I waved the other envelopes in my hand, praying he didn't notice the one I clutched behind me. His eyes lingered on me for a moment, searching, but then he shrugged, that easy grin sliding back into place. "All right, I'll go check on the cake." I stumbled to the bathroom, locking the door behind me. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, skin pale, eyes shining with tears. It was a face I barely recognized. My voice was little more than a broken whisper. "Who is Brandon?" I choked out, gripping the sink so hard my knuckles turned white. "Who is he? What did you do, Ethan?" My voice cracked, barely audible over the pounding in my ears. A 2-year-old boy, Ethan's son. Not ours. Not mine. The paper was still in my hand, crumpled now, its edges digging into my palm. I unfolded it again, rereading the words as if they might rearrange themselves into something less devastating. But they didn't. Each letter was a blade, carving deeper into the life I thought I knew. 5 years of marriage, 5 years of late-night talks, of promises, of building a future together. Had it all been a lie? When? With who? My mind spiraled, conjuring images of Ethan with someone else, someone holding a child I'd never known existed. When I finally stepped into the bedroom, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I knelt by the nightstand, easing the drawer open and sliding the envelope beneath a stack of baby name books. I pressed it down, as if burying it could erase what I'd seen. But my hands wouldn't stop trembling, and neither would my heart. I sat on the edge of the bed, the crumpled paternity test letter still hidden in the nightstand drawer, its words branded into my mind. Ethan was in the shower, the faint sound of water pattering against tiles drifting through the bathroom door. I glanced at my phone, 8 p.m., and my fingers hovered over the screen. I needed answers. I needed to know if this was real, if the life I'd built with Ethan was a lie. My heart thudded as I opened my laptop, the glow of the screen harsh against the dim room. I typed the name of the clinic, Westview Genetic Testing Center, into the search bar. My fingers felt numb, as though they belonged to someone else. A part of me still hoped I'd misunderstood, that the envelope was a mistake, a mix-up, anything. I found the login page, heart hammering in my throat. The patient number from the letter burned into my brain. I entered it, along with Ethan's birth date. A few clicks, a whir of the loading symbol, and then the screen flashed into focus. Ethan Miller, confirmed biological father. Brandon Miller, male, age 2. Mother, Tessa Clark. The name hit me like a punch. Tessa Clark. My Tessa, my little sister who'd been in Australia for 3 years, chasing her dreams. Or so I thought. My vision blurred, and I pressed a hand to my mouth to stifle the gasp clawing up my throat. "Tessa Clark?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "It can't be her. It's just a coincidence. A cruel, impossible coincidence." But my mind raced, piecing together fragments. Her unanswered texts, her absence, the way Ethan's face tightened whenever I mentioned her name over the past year. I fumbled for my phone, fingers slipping over the glass as I found her contact. The picture beside her name was of us on a beach years ago, hair tangled by wind, both of us grinning so wide. For a second I couldn't even remember what happiness felt like. I hit call. The phone rang. Once, twice, 5 times. Straight to voicemail. "Hi, you've reached Tessa. Leave me a message and I'll get back to you when I can." Her voice, so bright and familiar, felt like a knife twisting into my chest. I hung up without speaking. I tried again, then again, each unanswered ring tightening the knot in my chest. My knees gave out, and I sank to the floor, the cool hardwood pressing against my thighs. My breaths came in sharp, jagged bursts, like I was drowning in air. "Not Tessa," I murmured, rocking slightly, my hands clutching my belly as if to shield the baby from the truth. Not my sister. The world stopped. Every eye was on me, the air thick with shock. Ethan's mouth opened, but no words came out. His face was white, his hands raised as if to calm her, but they trembled. I stood there, rooted to the spot, the pin still in my hand, blue confetti clinging to my dress. My sister. My husband. A child I didn't know existed until yesterday. The pieces clicked together, jagged and cruel, forming a picture I couldn't unsee. Tessa's eyes flicked to me, and for a moment I saw the girl I'd grown up with. The one who'd braided my hair, who'd cried with me over broken hearts, who'd promised we'd always have each other. But that girl was gone, replaced by this stranger clutching Ethan's son. "Tessa," I said, my voice shaking but loud, cutting through the silence. "You're my sister." The words hung in the air, heavy, final. The crowd gasped, whispers erupting like static. Tessa's face crumpled, her shoulders sagging as if my words had drained her. Brandon squirmed in her arms, oblivious to the wreckage around him. Ethan stepped forward, his hands still raised, his voice desperate. "Olivia, I can explain." But I staggered back, pressing a trembling hand over my stomach as though I could shield my son from the reality collapsing around us. My voice was a whisper, trembling with grief, fury, disbelief. "How could you both do this to me?" The guests stood frozen, some looking away, others staring openly, their phones lowered but not off. I didn't care. The mask I'd worn all day, all year, was gone, and all that was left was rage and pain and a grief so deep it threatened to swallow me whole. Mom stepped forward, grabbing Tessa by the arm. Her face was pale, lips pressed into a trembling line. "Outside, now." Her voice left no room for argument. Tessa tried to speak, but Mom dragged her toward the front yard, her face tight with urgency. I caught a glimpse of Brandon's small frame bouncing in Tessa's arms as they disappeared, his innocent wave a cruel echo in my mind. The murmurs grew louder. "Unbelievable," someone whispered. "How could they?" another voice denned. I wanted to scream at them to stop, to leave, to let me breathe, but my throat was locked, my body rooted to the spot. Ethan's hand grazed my arm, tentative, desperate. "Liv," he murmured, his voice barely audible over the crowd. "Liv, please, come with me." Before I could pull away, he was steering me through the murmuring crowd, past crumpled confetti, into the house. He pushed the door shut and pressed his back against it as if barricading us from the world. The living room was dim, the remnants of the party, half-eaten cupcakes, crumpled napkins, scattered like evidence of a life I no longer recognized. Ethan turned to me, his face pale, his eyes wide with panic. "Liv, please," he said, his voice breaking. "I didn't want this to happen. I don't want to lose you." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that cut through the silence. "Lose me?" I said, my voice rising, raw and unhinged. "You betrayed me with my own sister, Ethan." The words tore out of me, each one a blade, slicing through the fragile threads that had held us together. His hands reached for me, but I stepped back, my body shaking with a fury I didn't know I could feel. "You stood there, smiling, planning our future while you were hiding a child. With Tessa. My Tessa." My voice cracked on her name, and I hated how much it still hurt to say it, how much I still loved her, even now. Ethan's face crumpled, his hands falling limp at his sides. "It was a mistake," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. His eyes searched mine, pleading, but all I could see was the lie, the years of it, woven into every touch, every promise. "I love you," he said, stepping closer. "I love our son. I'll do anything to fix this." He reached for me again, but I yanked my arm away, the motion so sharp it startled us both. "Don't touch me," I said, my voice low, trembling with rage. He froze, his hands hovering in the air, helpless. That night, I lay in bed, my back to Ethan, the space between us a chasm. The pillow was damp beneath my cheek, tears soaking into the fabric as I stared at the wall. His breathing was uneven, restless, but I didn't care. My mind was a reel of memories, playing on a loop I couldn't stop. Tessa, at 16, crying in my arms after her first breakup, swearing she'd never love again. Tessa, at 20, crying so hard she hiccuped, whispering that she was in love with a man who was already taken. I'd thought it was some older boyfriend from her college classes, some married professor or a guy from work, never imagining the man was Ethan. I remembered how she'd stared at the floor, voice shaking, confessing she couldn't help herself. I'd hugged her, told her love was complicated, told her she deserved someone single. I'd been comforting my own betrayer. A strangled laugh slipped out of me. I pressed a hand over my mouth, shaking. "I'm so stupid," I whispered into the darkness. How could I not see it? How blind was I? Ethan stirred, his arm reaching across the bed, curling around my waist. His touch, once a comfort, now felt like a violation. I flinched, my body curling inward away from him. "Liv, please," he murmured against my hair. "I love you. We can get past this. You and me. And the baby." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My heart was too full of hurt, too heavy with betrayal. I lay there, rigid, until his breathing deepened again, his arm slackening. Only then did I let the tears come, silent and relentless, soaking the pillow until it felt like I'd cried out every piece of myself. Morning sunlight spilled across the floorboards, turning the bedroom into a soft gold glow. I couldn't bear it. I got up before Ethan stirred, shoved a few clothes into a duffel bag, and drove to my parents' house in a daze. The world outside looked impossibly normal. Neighbors watered lawns, a dog barked. Someone jogged past my car without even glancing inside, and yet I felt as though the entire planet should be on fire. My parents' house smelled like cinnamon and wood polish. It used to be my safe place. Now it felt like a stage for another betrayal. My mother opened the door before I could knock, her face softening at the sight of me. "Olivia," she said, pulling me into a hug. I let her hold me, but my body stayed stiff, my arms limp at my sides. My father was in the kitchen pouring coffee, his shoulders hunched in a way I didn't recognize. "Sit," Mom said, guiding me to the table. "You look exhausted." I nodded, my throat too tight to speak, and sank into a chair. The familiar scent of coffee and cinnamon filled the air, but it didn't comfort me. Not today. They exchanged a glance, quick but heavy, and my stomach twisted. "What?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Mom hesitated, her fingers twisting the hem of her apron. "Liv, we need to talk about Tessa," she said softly, "and Brandon." The name hit me like a slap, and I gripped the edge of the table, my knuckles whitening. "Brandon," I repeated, my voice hollow. "You know about him?" Mom's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away. "He's our grandson," she said, her voice trembling. "We couldn't turn our backs on him." My breath caught, my vision narrowing. "You knew?" I whispered, my voice shaking. "You knew Ethan had a child with Tessa and you didn't tell me?" Dad cleared his throat, his eyes fixed on the table. "We found out last year," he said, his voice low, strained. Mom blinked hard, tears gathering in the corners of her eyes. She reached for me, but I stumbled a step back. "Liv," she whispered, voice trembling, "we thought it was better if you didn't know. Tessa, she made a mistake. We've been trying to hold the family together. We didn't want to destroy everything. We thought Ethan would stay with you, and Tessa would move on. We were trying to protect you." My breath hitched in my chest. I felt like I might throw up. "Protect me." My voice rose, sharp and jagged, cutting through the quiet kitchen. "You let me plan a life with a man who betrayed me, with my own sister. You let me dream about our son while you hid another child." I stood, the chair scraping against the floor, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold myself upright. Mom reached for me, her face crumpling. "Liv, please," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "We thought we were doing the right thing. Tessa was so lost. And Brandon, he's innocent in all this." Innocent? I stared at them both, the people who'd taught me how to read, how to ride a bike, how to believe in trust and loyalty and family. What about me? What about my son? I pressed a hand to my belly, feeling the faint kick of the life inside me, the only thing still tethering me to myself. "You all betrayed me. Tessa. Ethan. You." I looked at my father, his head bowed, his hands clasped tightly around his coffee mug. He didn't meet my eyes, and that silence hurt more than anything, more than Ethan's lies, more than Tessa's confession. "Liv," Mom said, her voice breaking. "We love you. We thought we could fix it, keep everyone together." "Fix it?" I shouted, my voice echoing in the small kitchen. "You don't fix a family by lying to it. You don't fix me by hiding the truth." I turned, grabbing my bag, my vision blurred with tears. "I trusted you," I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. "All of you." I walked out, ignoring Mom's pleas, Dad's heavy silence. The door slammed behind me, the sound final, like the end of something I'd never get back. I drove aimlessly, the road blurring through my tears. My hands gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white as I tried to make sense of it all. How had I not seen it? The late-night calls Tessa took in private, the way Ethan's smile faltered when I talked about her coming home. The signs were there, screaming, and I'd been too wrapped in my own happiness to hear them. I didn't know where to go, who to trust, the family I'd loved, the home I'd built. It was all a lie. The rain started as I packed, a soft patter against the windows that grew into a steady drum. My suitcase lay open on the bed, a yawning mouth swallowing pieces of my life one by one. Shirts, a few dresses, a framed photo of me and Ethan at the beach, waves crashing behind us, both of us grinning like fools. I stared at that photo for a long moment, then tossed it face down into the pile. My hands moved quickly, mechanical. Socks, prenatal vitamins, phone charger, toothbrush, a bottle of stretch mark cream, all the ordinary things I'd once believed belonged to a safe, ordinary life. My chest ached so deeply I thought my ribs might crack. The doorbell rang, jarring me from my thoughts. I froze, my heart pounding, hoping it was just a neighbor or a delivery, but then I heard her voice, soft and trembling through the door. "Liv, please, it's me." "Tessa." My stomach twisted, a mix of rage and grief surging up my throat. I didn't want to see her, didn't want to hear her voice, but my feet moved anyway, carrying me to the door. I opened it, and there she was, standing in the rain, her hair plastered to her face, her eyes red and swollen. Brandon wasn't with her. For a moment, we just stared, the space between us heavy with everything we'd lost. "Liv," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you." Her hands twisted together, knuckles white, as if she could wring the guilt out of them. "Ethan and I, we love each other. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, but it did." Her words hit like a slap, each one sharper than the last. I gripped the door frame, my nails digging into the wood, trying to anchor myself against the storm inside me. "Love?" I repeated, my voice low, trembling with fury. "You think this is love? You slept with my husband, Tessa. You had his child." My voice rose, cracking on the last word. She flinched, but didn't look away, her eyes pleading, desperate. "He promised me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He said he'd leave you, that we'd be a family. He said he loved me. Liv." I didn't think. My hand moved before I could stop it, the sharp crack of my palm against her cheek echoing in the quiet. Tessa stumbled back, her hand flying to her face, her eyes wide with shock. But then I broke, the anger dissolving into a flood of grief. Tears streamed down my face, hot and relentless as I choked out, "You're my sister, Tessa." My little sister, how could you do this to me? My voice shattered, and I sank against the doorframe, my body trembling. How could you? Tessa's face crumpled, tears mixing with the rain on her cheeks. I didn't mean to, she sobbed, stepping closer, her hands reaching out but stopping short. I wanted to be loved, Liv. I wanted what you had, and Ethan, he made me feel like I was enough. Brandon, he needs a father. Her voice cracked and she hugged herself, her shoulders shaking. I know I messed up. I know I broke us, but I was so alone and he was there and I believed him. You wanted to be loved? I said, my voice cold, steady now. You could have chosen anyone, Tessa. Anyone but him. I straightened, wiping my tears with the back of my hand. I can't look at you right now. I can't even stand to breathe the same air as you. From this day forward, we're not sisters anymore. The words felt like they'd been ripped from my chest, leaving a hollow ache in their place. Tessa's sob broke the silence, but I turned away, shutting the door before she could say another word. The house was too quiet now, the rain a dull roar outside. My phone buzzed on the counter, Ethan's name lighting up the screen. I ignored it, but it buzzed again, then again, relentless. When I finally answered, his voice was thick with tears. Liv, please, he said, the words tumbling out in a rush. I swear I'll end it with Tessa. I'll never see her again. I want you, our son, our life. I'll do anything to fix this. His sobs crackled through the phone, raw and desperate, but they didn't reach me. Not anymore. I stood there, silent, my hand resting on my belly, feeling the steady thump of my son's kicks. Liv, say something, he begged. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. All the words I wanted to scream clawed at my throat, but no sound came out. After a long moment, I simply hung up, the phone slipping from my hand onto the counter. There was nothing left to say. I zipped up the suitcase and hauled it off the bed. As I carried it through the house, the weight felt like dragging a coffin. I was halfway to the door when I saw my mother sitting in the entryway. Her hair was disheveled, her eyes swollen from crying. She reached for me, voice trembling. Don't do this. Don't leave us. We're your family. I stopped, the suitcase thudding gently against the floor. I stared down at her, this woman who had taught me how to read, how to bake cookies, how to braid my hair. She looked so small, so breakable. Family? I said, my voice cold, sharper than I meant it to be. You lied to me, Mom. My hands clenched into fists, my nails biting into my palms. I trusted you. I trusted all of you, and you chose to protect her instead of me. Mom's face crumpled, her hands twisting the hem of her sweater. We didn't want to hurt you, she said, her voice breaking. We thought we could fix it, keep the family together. We thought you'd be happier not knowing. Her tears fell freely now, but they didn't soften me. Not this time. Happier? I said, my voice rising, raw with pain. You think ignorance is happiness? You think lying to me was love? I shook my head, my throat tight. I lifted the suitcase again and stepped past her toward the door. Mom grabbed at my arm, but I pulled free. Dad appeared at the end of the hallway, his face pale, but he didn't try to stop me. He just lowered his eyes, silent. Outside, the afternoon sun was blinding. It seemed obscene that the world could still be so bright, so ordinary when my entire life was in pieces. I wheeled my suitcase down the front steps. Each thump of its wheels on the concrete felt like punctuation marks in a sentence I never wanted to write. The first few weeks after I left, I stayed with my oldest friend, Claire, in her tiny condo downtown. She cleared out a room for me, tucked soft blankets into the crib she'd borrowed from a neighbor, and made me endless cups of herbal tea. At night, while the city lights blinked through the blinds, I lay awake listening to the gentle hush of passing cars. Some nights I'd cry until my chest hurt, clutching my belly, whispering to my son that he deserved better than all of this chaos. But even in the middle of heartbreak, there was the steady thump of his heartbeat under my palm, proof that life kept moving forward, no matter how shattered I felt. Noah arrived in a flood of pain and tears on a rain-soaked Tuesday. Claire held my hand through every contraction, wiping my forehead, telling me I was stronger than any man who'd ever lied to me. When I finally heard Noah's first wail, it felt like my lungs collapsed with relief and joy all at once. They placed him on my chest, his tiny body slick and warm. "This is our new beginning," I whispered into the downy curve of his head. "Just you and me, baby." My mother came to the hospital the day after Noah was born, her arms full of flowers and a knitted blanket, her face etched with guilt and hope. "He's beautiful, Liv," she said, her voice trembling as she peered at Noah in his bassinet. I nodded, my arms crossed, my heart a fortress. "Thanks for coming," I said, my tone flat, distant. She reached for my hand, but I pulled back, busying myself with folding Noah's swaddle. "Liv, please," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm so sorry. We were wrong to keep it from you. Can we start over?" I looked at her, the woman who'd bandaged my scraped knees, who'd taught me how to braid my own hair, and felt nothing but a dull ache. "I need time," I said, my voice steady but cold. "I don't know if I can trust you again." She nodded, her lips trembling, and left quietly, the flowers wilting on the hospital tray. Back at Claire's, I settled into a rhythm of feedings and diaper changes, Noah's soft coos filling the spaces where pain used to live, but Ethan's messages kept coming, relentless, lighting up my phone at all hours. "Liv, I want to be there for Noah, for Brandon, they're brothers, they should grow up together." I read the texts in the dark. Noah asleep against my chest, his tiny breaths warm against my skin. Brothers. The word felt like a betrayal, a reminder of the life Ethan had built behind my back. I typed a reply once, my fingers shaking with rage. "My son doesn't need to live in the shadow of your lies." I sent it, then blocked his number, the act feeling final, like closing a door I'd never reopen. Life moved forward, one small step at a time. I found a job teaching part-time at a community college, grading papers while Noah napped in a bassinet by my desk. The work grounded me, gave me purpose beyond the diapers and late-night feedings. I moved into a small rental of my own, a one-bedroom with creaky floors and a window that overlooked a quiet street. It wasn't much, but it was ours. I painted the walls a soft yellow, hung a mobile above Noah's crib, and filled the shelves with books I'd read to him someday. One golden afternoon, Noah and I wandered to the park, the crisp autumn air carrying the scent of leaves and distant wood smoke. Noah was wrapped in a soft gray blanket, his round eyes blinking up at the sun, filtering through rustling branches. I pushed his stroller along the winding paths, soaking in the easy laughter of other families, the bark of dogs chasing frisbees. Then I saw her. Tessa sat on a wooden bench near the duck pond, Brandon curled in her lap. She was thinner than I remembered, hair pulled into a loose braid, her face pale and drawn. When her eyes found mine, she froze, lips parting as though to speak, but no sound came out. My breath caught, and for a moment I considered turning back, slipping away before she saw me. But her eyes met mine, and there was no escaping it. She stood, Brandon clinging to her leg, and walked toward me, her steps hesitant, her face pale. "Liv," she said, her voice small, trembling. "I didn't think I'd see you here." Her eyes were red, her cheeks streaked with tears she hadn't bothered to wipe away. "Mom told me to stay away, that you needed space. But I miss you, Liv. I miss us." Her voice broke, and she looked down at Brandon, her hand resting on his head. "I'm so sorry. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know I never wanted to hurt you." I stared at her for a long time. The wind rustled around us, carrying the distant squeals of children playing on swings. I sank slowly onto the other end of the bench, leaving a gulf of space between us. I didn't want her close. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I couldn't keep hating her either. It felt like poisoning myself over and over. I looked at Noah, his eyes bright as he chewed on his fist, and felt a clarity I hadn't known before. "We all lost something, Tessa," I said, my voice soft but firm. "You lost me. I lost you. Ethan lost everything he claimed to want, but I won't let my son grow up in a world built on lies." I paused, my throat tightening. "I don't hate you. Not anymore. But I can't trust you and I can't be your sister right now." Tessa's face crumpled, tears spilling down her cheeks as she nodded. "I understand," she whispered, her voice barely audible. She looked at Noah, her eyes softening. "He's beautiful, Liv. He looks like you." I nodded, my lips pressed tight to keep the tears at bay. For a while, we sat in silence, separated by secrets and old love and fresh wounds. Brandon babbled softly, slapping his small hands against Tessa's chest. Noah gurgled in his stroller, blinking up at the swaying trees. Around us, life carried on, children squealing, dogs barking, leaves drifting down like golden confetti. Neither of us said another word. We just breathed, together yet impossibly apart. After a while, I stood and leaned over Noah's stroller. He gripped my finger with his tiny hand, his skin so soft and warm it made my chest ache. I glanced once more at Tessa, then looked down at my son. My voice was quiet, but sure. "We're enough," I whispered to Noah. "Just the two of us." I carried Noah out of the park, his little body tucked against my chest in the sling. The setting sun bathed the world in amber light, turning the leaves into shards of gold. I paused on the path, feeling the breeze brush over my face. For the first time in so long, there was no tightening in my chest, no claws of panic scraping at my insides. Noah shifted and made a soft, contented sigh. I bent and kissed his downy head, breathing in the warm, milky scent of him. I knew my life would never look like the fairy tale I'd once imagined under a white wedding arch. But as I stood there, bathed in fading sunlight, I realized it didn't have to. I was free. Free to choose truth over comfort. Free to raise my son in honesty. Free to build a life that was smaller, quieter, but real. And that was enough. More than enough.